Welcome to Thrive, your agency resource, the only podcast for creative, media, and technology leaders who are ready to dive deeper into conscious leadership and agency growth. I'm your host, Kelly Campbell. Thrive is brought to you by Accessiby, the leading web accessibility solutions provider. Join thousands of agencies that are already incorporating web inclusivity into their service offerings. Visit accessiby.com today. Welcome back to Thrive, your agency resource. On this episode, we're going to get into the neuroscience behind business growth. And for this conversation, I'm actually joined by Marko Pavicic, who is the owner of Unity Method. It's a B2B consultancy helping agencies with sustainability through neuroscience-based new business. Super interesting conversation. Marko, thank you so much for joining me. You're in Croatia, right?
Yeah, right now. Thanks for accepting me. It will be a pleasure.
I accept all of you.
I like the energy in the start. Really good feedback from my side to you regarding the podcast and everything you do through your work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
So let's kick off the discussion talking a little bit about the principles that you have at Unity Method, which is very much in line with a lot of the work I do and things that I talk about. The idea of collaboration versus competition. So my question is, why do you think it's so important? And why do you also think that a lot of agency owners believe that the market is just not big enough for all of them?
Yeah, actually, good question. The reason why I chose name Unity Method for my business and also I would say my key value in life, Unity, because if you go into the science, like everybody is familiar with Roberto Cialdini and his work with persuasion, but in his latest book in 2016, he wrote Persuasion, where he discovered after 30 plus years of work in consumer psychology and persuasion that unity is the seventh principle of persuasion or persuasion, as he likes to call it, meaning that if we see everything in life as us versus I or you, completely different framework, because then you can live your life, especially in the agency world, like I'm respecting my own needs and my own business and my own growth, but I also appreciate others, because if we see there's like 8 billion people on the planet, 5 or 6 billion who have access to the internet, everything is going digital. So even going on that raw mathematics, how can we see other people as competition? Because what will happen, people change jobs, clients change agencies, work together and don't work together. So having this mindset of collaboration creates abundance in the mind on really unconscious level, meaning that even from this book Secret or Science of Attraction, it's I would say higher chance that you will attract better clients, higher ROI in your business if you see business or relationships or growth as collaboration, because then even you will get better clients, but also you will have better employees in your corner who will like align with your vision and work because they want to be there versus being there just to get a salary. So I would say this principle goes through all areas of life, especially in business, in personal life, because you want to have friends in your life who are also here because of you or your principles or your character, versus people who are here for you just for material reasons or good house or good car or I don't know what.
Right. What I also hear you saying in that is just energetically,
the
idea of being invitational, being collaborative with another organization, another person, whether it be clients, strategic partners, whatever it is, like the energy of that. And I'm not talking about sort of positive, like toxic positivity. I'm not saying that, right? So I just want to be really clear. The energy of collaboration versus viewing someone else as, I better get mine before they get theirs, right? That you're always in this mode of resistance and fight.
Correct.
From that energetic perspective, things just flow easier. I know that sounds very kind of woo, but there is a truth to it. And I know that you are also what I would call a lifelong student of Buddhism and Buddhist psychology and philosophy. So if we apply that to business, can you talk more about this concept that nothing is positive or negative, it just is?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad that you opened this topic, because it can all be boiled down to simple physics or intuition, because like you mentioned, if we see things as they are, neutral. Well, I like your word invitational. This is really great word because, like I mentioned earlier, that quote which I have seen because I was traveling to Serbia last week to visit some clients there, and like it was Nikola Tesla on the picture, and like his quote: "If you want to understand the secret of universe, follow energy, frequency, and vibration." Meaning that if we put this into simple scientific terms which everybody knows. Thoughts create emotions, emotions create actions, actions create results, and then circle repeats again. What people don't understand, there is one key thing which happens every single day: people around us. People are social triggers which evoke thoughts, which then create emotions. Every thought, every emotion has a frequency, meaning that with fMRI, with magnetic resonance, you can quite easily track like frequency of a human body and human health, meaning that with this thing in mind, what it happens if you have a positive, let's put it that way, or maybe invitational, collaborative, I'm using your words which is better than mine, self-talk, you are running yourself to attracting what is similar to you. Then what it happens, you go into a meeting or you work a couple of weeks, and then like you see increase in better clients, better employees. And then what it happens, your let's call it thoughts or emotions, they attract similar people who have the similar mindset. And then you meet somebody after 10 minutes, you say, like, you know, that gut feeling which says, this person is a good fit for me. What it happens on an unconscious level, you met that person, your brain said, okay, we are aligned, saw that pattern, communicated this from your stomach to your neurocortex, to your logical brain, and then just aligned that pattern with pattern from, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, where you meet somebody from the same background. What it happens, this type of communication where our brain transfers frequency, vibration, and energy into words happens on unconscious level so fast that we just get this instinct, sixth sense, or a hunch, which is clearly described in Think and Grow Rich book, written 80-90 years ago, where Napoleon Hill speaks about that. Then what we are missing today is just lack of awareness, because what we spoke before, if we talk in these terms, at least when I share, like, I would say science behind my work, everybody is interesting, because then we can actually understand, you know, everybody says the world is network, you can get to Barack Obama through 6 connections, or I don't know, to Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. Actually, if you understand this framework, the whole life is neural network, input output, and then the whole point of, like you mentioned, collaboration and seeing that market is big enough for us focuses down or boils down to understanding your key strengths, verbalizing all of these things on unconscious level, just working with yourself, and then aligning yourself with people who relate with your work, with your values. Because then what it happens, this approach will, even if somebody is not a good fit for you, like you mentioned, invitational mindset, tomorrow will get you a better person who is more compatible. If you focus on competition, there will always be some kind of fear, and what will happen, you will attract these type of people, and then when you meet somebody after 10 minutes in the stomach, oh, this person wants to trick me. What it happens, you met that person a couple of maybe weeks or months ago, similar pattern happens, and you are yeah, correct.
Yeah. Did you know that 1 out of 5 people in the US is living with some form of disability? I'm proud to partner with Accessity as they work toward the mission of making the web accessible to everyone. It's time to prioritize inclusivity. Ensure that your own website and your client sites can be accessed by all and that they're ADA compliant. Head over to accessiby.com/thrive to learn more about their agency partner program. Now, back to the show. It's so fascinating to me that a lot of people talk about these things in terms of attraction and magnetism and energy and input and output. A lot of people think about and talk about and hear about these things in terms of personal relationships. but it's very few people who talk about them in the business context. So I'm curious, how did you translate that into business growth?
There is a saying in business, your business life is a reflection of your personal life. Meaning, if you have unresolved relationships in your personal life, this will transfer to business. If you are aware that COVID happened almost 3 years ago, everything is now, people will say work-life balance. Right now, this is just my personal opinion. I believe in work-life integration or synergy. There is
Oh,
no
come on. You had to have watched a couple of shows before. I say the exact same
yeah.
balance.
I did my research, and this is, for example, logical reason why we have this, let's call it, connection right now.
Yeah, sure.
And going back to your question, I will use, for example, analogy of sales and sex, meaning that if you
Sales and
are,
sex?
yeah,
Oh,
this
all
is
right. Bring it on. Bring it on.
this is actually, and this is not even my concept. In the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, in COVID I read it 5 times. He speaks about something called sexual transmutation, which is basically, there is a big myth today that men just think about sex and just seeing women as sexual objects. If you put this concept into business, if you are a agency owner, yeah, this guy wants to sell me something, he's just here to sell. But what it happens, if you start to think about transferring that energy into, for example, in personal life, into creativity, into seeing women from point of strength, support, appreciation, respect, what it happens then, the same energy applies into business, because then you will see your potential leads or partners or prospects as collaborators, as partners, going back to answer to the previous question. And then what it happens, energy which you have in your personal life or values or character you have, it's basically the same expression in business. Just of course in personal life you focus more on personal relationships with friends, with family, with spouse. In business, of course, you focus more on finding a need, fulfilling that need, charging, investing. But if you don't have alignment between, I would say, congruency between personal harmony and social and business harmony, it will not grow sustainably. Because I can tell you from a personal example, when we do sales outsourcing or lead generation for our agency clients, we, for example, book 2-3 leads for in 2 weeks, prepare everything, they come on a meeting, and then you can see that they're stressed. What it happens, they don't follow what we agreed upon before the call, they shit it up, sorry for the word, and then like closing a deal, $250,000, instead of 2 weeks becomes 3 months. Because person, if you are not, I would say, harmonious in personal life, ready to accept business growth, when you earn money, what happens with many celebrities, it's the same principle in agency world. If you grow so fast and you don't have stable foundation, personal life, stable relationships, who will just ground you, put you in I would say mindset of investing, collaboration versus just spending around, it's, I would say, circle until you don't come to this point or this, I would say, perception, it's quite.
Yeah, it's almost like the way that I kind of distill all of that is you're talking about this in the context of being generative versus extractive.
Correct. Great words.
Yeah.
Like it.
So business development, and I do talk often about business development because I love it so much. It comes very naturally to me because I love the relational aspect of it. It's very uncomfortable and causes a lot of stress and anxiety for a lot of agency owners. I mean, a lot of people in general, but specifically agency owners for lots of different reasons. And it impacts their mental health, their well-being. Obviously, we know from the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, for example, stress and anxiety and things like that overwhelm. They cause, chronic illness. There's different things that manifest in the body, right? So part of this is the impact on mental health and well-being, all of that. But how does the approach that you're sort of suggesting or advocating for, how does that approach mitigate those issues?
If somebody will listen to this and apply it, I can guarantee it, and this is the word which I'm not using often, increased social well-being and increased revenue and profitability. It all boils down to tracking social well-being of your day-to-day interactions. Going back to this point, of you meet somebody new, a prospect or a lead or an employee or a partner or even a podcast.
Yep.
And if you are aware of your values, what is important for you, you should wake up every single day with a certain flexibility, social well-being, and harmony, like across your mind, body, and spirit. What happens throughout the day, you speak with a lot of people. If you're an agency owner, in average, you will have 20, 30, 50 employees, even maybe the same number of clients. Imagine just using Slack, LinkedIn, email. Let's say you speak with 50 people per day in maybe 8, 9 hours, maybe even more if you run a business. Then what it happens? If you are not aware of this principle, which I mentioned, understanding your emotions and thoughts, and then just understanding, okay, this is mine. I spoke with that person. After that conversation, I felt that way. And just understanding the impact which other people have on you. For example, if you are in sales and after a meeting, you felt good entering into the meeting. After the meeting, you feel stressed out, something tension. Many people will say, nothing important. Then you repeat it 2, 3 times that day. What it happens? This is a clear sign that if you are aligned with yourself, that other person brought that up, and your body is signaling that to you. Then what I do, for example, I just write follow-up email to, let's say, a prospect. Hey, I noticed this, and this. And what happens? Wow, sorry, nobody noticed that. Happened XYZ. What it happens then? Just by observing this and writing it down on a piece of paper, if you're with maybe in person or through email or Slack or whatever digital channel, people will open up, and then you will actually get social context behind that, let's call it emotional thought process or energetic state. And then when you have a context, hey, that person did that happened. As an agency owner, if that is a client, you can advise, do this, we'll fix that. Or if it's a prospect, hey, we'll do this to increase credibility. Or if it's employee, hey, take a day off. And then what it happens when you start to understand yourself, thought process, and increasing that and communicating in two-way approach toward other people, energy flows through you. And then at the end of the day, you will maybe go to bed and feel tired, but it's outcome of every single day. Even if you're not doing anything, you will be tired. But what will happen? You will be empowered versus maybe being stressed, because every important thing or pattern or emotion you noticed, you verbalized, and then the next day you will reset, wake up, and what happens in my case, next day, bam, I learned that, bam. It's like you don't even need then to read like tons of books. Intuition, which we explained before, which is not a mystical thing, will be your greatest ally. And then, for example, when it happens a moment where somebody is pressing you to invest in something, or maybe I don't know, you need to hire somebody new or need to send a proposal, if you feel that gut feeling, it's not the timing, going back, it's not the timing because that person is not ready for that, or I'm not ready for that, and then just postponing for a couple of days. What happens in the end? Surprisingly, things come into homeostasis or entropy, or like there is a lot of principles from chemistry which we can pull out, but the key
But it
thing
is about listening. I think that's what you're saying. It's about listening to that kind of inner wisdom.
Correct.
Yeah.
And just thanks for that. Trying to simplify it, because I have, as you can see, I have this challenge when I go into this, listening to that inner wisdom and then just putting that energy, thoughts, emotions into words toward other people when other people need to be involved.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the theoretic concept. In practice, of course, it takes time because you have a lot of obstacles, like what will other person think, embarrassment, afraid. But practicing, I can tell from my personal example, this is the best, I would say, social well-being process you can do to increase mental regeneration, social regeneration, and just increase your health levels, because then things are not happening to you, things are happening with you, or you are transferring, I don't know, whatever happens to you into something empowering and a lesson.
So this idea of these external forces or factors that are kind of coming at you, you're hearing other people talk, you're interacting with other people, those other people might be projecting their own shit on you,
Bingo.
all of that stuff, right? Can you talk about that in the context of a lot of the fear-based discussion, we'll call it, around the economic downturn. Everyone's kind of talking about it and slacking about it. I see groups, I hear, clients, everyone who is sort of in that fear-based sort of scarcity mindset, I might even say, they're not talking about it in a way that's like, okay, well, this is natural. We know that the economy has a downturn, or there is some kind of depressed nature to an economy, an ebb and a flow, if you will, about every 10 years. And so this is like kind of to be expected, right? Nothing is, back to you, what you said before, nothing is positive or negative. It just is. Can you talk about that mindset as it relates to the economy and how people are reacting to that?
Yeah, sure. Great question. I'll now try to integrate every answer to every question you asked. So if we focus on being us versus I or you are focusing on collaboration. Then this triggers, like we mentioned, certain empowering self-talk. Let's not call it negative or positive. What happens then? You are, like you said, invitational or collaborational toward opening up, speaking with other people. Then what it happens? As you know, every agency business starts with what's the first level, how you acquire clients? Referrals, recommendations, organic growth. Nobody knows how these people came to pay you services, but somehow somebody refers business to you. Up to, let's say, at least in my experience, to 1 million, you can do it. You can do everything sales-based or personal development-based through referrals. What it happens then when these, if we live in pleasant times, you can let yourself become a little bit lazy in terms of maybe not triggering like a connection with people, because you know that something will come your way because people are investing. What happens right now in these times, if people don't have this us mindset, collaboration, invitational, understanding that nothing will come for them to them without any mental or social element or action
Like
from
being
their side.
proactive, is that what you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
What it happens, something external happens, people start to shiver left, right, up and down, and then they lose sight of most important thing, at least in my perception of business growth. No matter how depression comes, money will shift hands from a certain industry to other industry. 2 years ago, that was like food delivering services like Bolt, at Delivery Hero here in Europe. Then right now, what's happening, at least in Europe, and I see it also in the States and Canada, energy sector is booming. Some other sectors are maybe in downturn, but if you focus on us, collaboration, and just seeking consistency in terms of connecting with people, but not consistency in terms of seeking left or right views, for example, in policy, or trying to find conflicts, but rather, hey, I noticed this, what noticed you? Let's exchange ideas, let's take collaboration. What will happen? Hey, I have a referral for you who is a good fit for a new client. Hey, I can be, for example, your client. What it happens? You focus on yourself and things you can control, which is always having this, applying this process we spoke before, and being consistent with connecting with people, speaking, having conversations. Because if you're consistent with this field, you will grow. If you stop doing this, of course, that clients will go away, because if they don't have budgets, why should they invest with you?
Right.
And this is where I see a lot of agency owners lose sight, because if they think that they will earn first million and then just not do anything and delegate everything to their sales team, doesn't work. Being consistent with relationships, doing these type of things every single day, this is where people don't understand. This is my personal opinion. World needs more connectors versus more closers or more creators. Like you said, don't get me wrong. People need ideas. People need people who will, or business who will close those deals. But if somebody will not come, verbalize these things, open doors, start conversations like two of you, how can we expect that the world will be a better place and that business growth will happen on a sustainable, harmonious, effective way?
Yeah. Wow. Very, very well said. I think that's a really, really good place to wrap. Marko, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate your time.
Welcome, and it was my pleasure as well.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you watch or listen. And a final note of gratitude to the official sponsor of Thrive, Accessiby, the leading web accessibility solutions provider. Learn more about the win-win proposition and keep your clients' websites inclusive and compliant. Be sure to check out their partner program for your agency today at accessiby.com/thrive.